Welcome to ThundersportGB. It's round 3 of the championship and the Golden Era Superbikes, a new class for 2012. Lee Reveley, 77 on the Aprilia Melee we saw lining up on pole position on the right. That bright orangey red machine, number 57, the Kawasaki 750 ZXR is, well, he's got off to a great start, number 57, it's Rob Wilson. Into turn 1 they go, just behind him, number 13 on the S-Rad Suzuki, Richard Blunt. Lee Reveley not getting off to a great start, dropping all the way back down to 6th place with, well, there's been a high rate of attrition this weekend so far in the RST clothing Golden Era Superbikes, because we've lost a couple of riders already. But as we head down into Edwinas for the first time, oh, Rob Wilson is going to have to run straight onto the grass, and that means that the new race leader is number 13, Richard Blunt. Martin Tranter on the Yamaha YZF 750's got off to a good start, and number 57, Rob Wilson, has rejoined the circuit back in front. He hasn't made an enormous, taken an enormous advantage, so I doubt that he'll get penalised for that. So it is at the moment 57 Wilson from Blunt, number 13, then number 5 and 62, it's Martin Tranter and Jason Dixon. Look out for 77, Lee Reveley in 5th place. Once he gets warmed up, he is fast, and he leads this championship coming into Mallory Park by 60 points. There, going into the first turn here, Gerard's is number 62, Jason Dixon on the Suzuki 750, and Lee Reveley lining him up on the Aprilia. There's the race leader, number 57. That's Rob Wilson on the ZX7R. Not in traditional Kawasaki colours, of course. Normally bright green, but not on Rob's bike. In 2nd place on the Suzuki is still Blunt. There is the Aprilia Melee of number 77, Lee Reveley. And he is the championship leader. There is no Keith Smith, remember, here. Unfortunately, a little accident occurring in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. After a couple of drinks, no surprise there. Keith Smith fell from the 2nd floor, landed on his spud head, and it's still in hospital, I believe. So we send our best wishes to Smithy. There is the race leader, 57, Rob Wilson from Richard Blunt, number 13, and Lee Reveley now trying to close in on Richard Blunt in 2nd place. I'm going to bring in a man that knows all about this class, and of course it's new for 2012. Park director, Thundersport Sid, Hissing Sid, many a name. Richard Day, good to have you with us as Lee Reveley moves up into 2nd place ahead of Richard Blunt. This championship, Sid, 750cc 4-cylinder bikes from the 80s and 90s, competing against 1000cc twins in the original Superbike format. There's a lot of people out there that have got these sort of bikes in their garages, and we're trying to encourage them to come out and race again.
Greetings, yes, very much so. I mean, we think that there's many of these bikes that are no longer worth much, and so whilst they sit in the garage, and there's no point in selling them, because there's no money to be had, and they're just wasting away. And we brought this class in, and it's awakened the many a rider of the geriatric department, which I think they're fondly now calling them gentleman races, and we're very pleased to see them out here.
Back at the front here, number 57, Rob Wilson, is coming under attack from E2E Solutions sponsored Aprilia Melee of Lee Reveley, a triple champion for ThundersportGB when he was on the Ducati, of course, in the Super Twins. It was also called the Sound of Thunder back in 2008. So a good effort here from Lee Reveley, and he's hunting down Wilson, who's ever so wobbly through the hairpin. So you're almost trying to replicate the days of Foggy and Russell, Kaczynski, etc. then, Sid.
Yeah, Chris Walker, all these great golden era days, I think. And it seems to be working. It's a slow start, obviously, first year, but we have great plans for this class, and it certainly has awakened the imagination of the riders and the public alike.
We had a decent number of entries for this round here at Mallory Park in the Golden Eras before the start of this weekend, but as I mentioned, high rate of attrition so far of the weekend. These conditions don't help, so it means that we don't have as many runners as usual out on circuit. It's only going to be a matter of time here before Lee Reveley pounces on number 57, Rob Wilson. Lee Reveley, Sid, a rider that obviously we all know very well in ThundersportGB, as we just pan back to Jason Dixon, number 62. Lee has been able to sit on pretty much any bike and do very well, and he's taking advantage of the fact that Smithy's not here this weekend, and no Ian Simpson either.
Yeah, poor Smithy. Yeah, I mean, obviously we know Lee Reveley very well. He's already shown his prowess, as you've already mentioned, and he certainly really wanted this particular championship. He loves this melee, and he loves any condition. He's a really good rider, and as you can see, it's raining quite hard here, and he's just tagging on to Rob, watching what he's up to and everything else, and looks like...
Oh, and yes, he has. He's got up the inside there, a block pass, brilliantly done from number 77, Lee Reveley on the Aprilia. He overtakes the Endotech Racing Kawasaki of Rob Wilson. Let's take another little look at that. Lee Reveley then, here he comes through the bus stop as the race leader, having passed number 57, Rob Wilson of Immingham. These Kawasaki's, of course, remind me more than anything else, if I cast my mind back, Scott Russell, Gobert, of course, on the Kawasaki. Some great riders. We just saw there, number 5, Martin Tranter on the Yamaha YZF 750. Remember the old Cadbury's Boost days with Whittam and Mackenzie, Sid?
Absolutely, and indeed I think Chris Walker had one as well, didn't he? And yeah, they were the great days, and of course when everybody loved with no gizmos on the bike and no Motec electronics to worry about, and it's very much an affordable racing series that we've got here, and we really believe that it's the future for Thundersport.
Well, let's hope so. We just saw a shot there of number 62, Jason Dixon, putting, I think that was a lap on Phil Page on, well, I'm not sure what colour that Kawasaki is, but should we call it orange? Number 94, Phil Page, a loyal supporter of ThundersportGB, been around for quite some time. The rain's starting to hammer down now here. The checkered flag is waiting then for Lee Reveley. It's been a faultless ride here, hasn't it, Sid?
It's fantastic for him. He's very good in these conditions. It looks like he's shown more a clean pair of hands, really.
So the message is from Thundersport Sid: if you have one of these bikes, if you've got the 750cc 4-cylinder or the 1000cc twin in that garage, get it out, get it out, get your numbers on there, and let's come racing at ThundersportGB. Thanks ever so much for Sid for joining us, of course, co-director of ThundersportGB alongside Dave Stewart. Out of Shaw's Hairpin comes Lee Reveley, and up through the bus stop chicane. How many wins has this man had with ThundersportGB? The E2E Solutions Aprilia Relay comes across the line, and it's a win for Lee Reveley in the RST motorcycle clothing, Golden Era Superbikes. In the background, it is going to be Rob Wilson on the Kawasaki that takes second, and Richard Blunt on the SRAD Suzuki is going to take third place ahead of Andrew Dumbill. Number 70, another rider out there on an Aprilia 1000cc. And just behind Andrew Dumbill is Jason Dixon on the SRAD Suzuki, and Martin Tranter, the first of the Yamahas, in 6th. On the podium there, Lee Reveley in the centre, with Wilson to the left and Blunt on the right. ThundersportGB, we are at Mallory Park for the third round of the championships, and it's time for the RST motorcycle clothing Golden Era Superbikes, 750cc 4-cylinder bikes from the 80s and 90s, competing against 1000cc twins in the original scintillating superbike format. And Lee Reveley, number 77 on the right of your picture, the red and black bike, leader of the championship coming into this event on the Aprilia Melee, has just been overtaken there by 57 Rob Wilson on the fluorescent orange, red, whatever colour you want to call it, Kawasaki ZX7R. No Ian Simpson here this weekend. A couple of riders crashed out in qualifying, so we have a little bit of a diminished grid, but hopefully some decent racing action at the front nonetheless. Number 5 there, just going through, possibly not quite, well I can tell you, number 13 first, Richard Blunt is on the Suzuki S-Rad that now leads from 57 Rob Wilson. Number 5 is Martin Tranter The rider out on, or the only rider out on the Yamaha YZF 750, number 70, Andrew Dumbill on an Aprilia Melee, a bike that is very popular. And before we get really close and up into action of this race, we should just send our very best regards to a competitor that isn't here this weekend, Keith Smith, Mr. Potato Head. Unfortunately, Keith was out working in Mexico, fell off a couple of flights on a balcony somewhere, landed on his head, been in hospital since in Mexico, and won't be racing for a while. So we send you our best regards, Keith. Hopefully you get better soon. Luckily, that potato head of yours has prevented any serious damage. Into the first corner we go, and Lee Reveley there, number 77, just getting warmed up into things on the Aprilia Melee. Lee, a triple champion in the Super Twins class. Look at the rain coming down there. That shot just giving you a real insight as to how wet and slippery it is around here at Mallory Park, as Lee Reveley thought about going up into second place but settles for third. It's Blunt that leads from number 57, Rob Wilson. Lee Reveley in third. That was number 58, Brian Spreadborough. Another rider on the Aprilia. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Aprilia Melees out on circuit up against some of the classic 750s. We've got Graham Guff out there, the number 131 on a Ducati 916. Beautiful machines they are. And you can't miss number 94, Phil Page, on the Kawasaki 750 either. Look out for number 94. It's painted in almost a blancmange pink. As they tip into turn one, that is still Blunt from Rob Wilson on the Kawasaki and Lee Reveley in third on the Aprilia. So we have Suzuki from Kawasaki from Aprilia, but the Aprilia of Lee Reveley, the championship leader, coming into Mallory Park, has made a move. He's side by side with Wilson, and as he comes into Ed Wieners, is he going to try and get himself up into first as well? No. Oh, what a move there from Wilson around the outside. A classic move from Wilson on the Kawasaki. He moves back up into second place and pushes Lee Reveley, the championship leader, down to third. Meanwhile, in the background there, number 5, Martin Tranter on the Yamaha, has made it 4 manufacturers in the top 4 and fancies a look at the top 3 as Lee Reveley trying to find any which way he can past Wilson. Just keeps on getting the door closed. Meanwhile, Blunt on the Suzuki S-Rad still leads this one as they exit Devil's Elbow and make their way around onto the start finish straight from Wilson. Lee Reveley in third. And in fourth there, number 5, Martin Tranter. Into the long right-hander, Gerard's corner. That just seems like it goes on forever and ever. One of the most famous corners in Britain, before making their way onto the Stebby Straight, and all of a sudden it's 3 abreast as Blunt comes under attack from Wilson on the Yamaha, and Lee Reveley also going through. So Blunt goes from first to third. Lee Reveley has to pick the bike up after a little wobble, but a great riding here from Rob Wilson, number 57 from Immingham, riding for Team Endotech on the Kawasaki 750. In third there, that is Richard Blunt, who's just lost out on a couple of places, and Lee Reveley around the outside into Shaw's hairpin, which will give him the inside line into the bus stop. There was almost a collision with Lee's back tyre and the front end of Wilson, but luckily both riders make it safely through. And Lee Reveley has been sponsored by E2E Solutions for quite some years now. The rider from Coventry on the Aprilia Melee leads ahead of Rob Wilson, and looks as though, well, on that lap he was a second quicker than anyone else, so maybe Lee was just getting a little bit held up and fancies his chances of pulling away in this one. Don't forget, if you want to see the other races of ThundersportGB, all of these classes getting 2 races here, then just go on to www.thundersportgb.com and click on the iPlayer icon. As you see there, number 5, Martin Tranter now going past Richard Blunt. So Blunt on the Suzuki led this one in the early stages, but now the rest of the bikes have just got themselves dialed in. Blunt has just been demoted to 4th momentarily. It's quite a gap then back to the likes of Brian Spreadborough, Jason Dixon and Andrew Dumbill. Reveley it is that leads this one then, the championship leader. Came into this event 60 points ahead of Nick Williamson, Ian Simpson, who aren't out on this circuit here today. Reveley's got, well, he certainly knows this place like the back of his hand, the Coventry rider. You could almost call this place, between this and Donington, home circuits for Lee. So Mallory Park for round 3. Of course, we went to Donington Park before this. Brands Hatch was the opener. And if you actually want to come to the events and watch this racing, it's the next best thing from British Superbikes. And get yourself to some of the circuits to watch them. Of course, we're love to have you here on Motors TV, but next round will be at Alton Park in Cheshire, Saturday the 26th of May as the rain comes down. Sunday 24th of June will be at Snetterton in Norfolk, and then Sunday the 29th of July over to Rockingham. Last lap flag is out now. Lee Reveley it is that leads this one from Rob Wilson, and since he's managed to get out front, he's just pulled away, and his lap times are 1.2 seconds quicker than Rob Wilson's last time around. As you see there, number 66 Paul Maxfield on the yellow Aprilia just ahead of Martin Tranter. In fact, Maxfield's being lapped by Tranter there, number 5 on the Yamaha YZF, sorry, at 750. Lee Reveley then, a triple champion in the Super Twins, Sound of Thunder it's been called before, looking to win the Golden Era Superbikes. No Keith Smith to play with, as I mentioned at the top of this show. We send our best regards to him. Further back there, that's number 62 and number 58. 62 is Jason Dixon, 58 Brian Spreadbreath, fighting for 5th and 6th. But out of Devil's Elbow is just a cruise to the line for the championship leader, number 77, sponsored by E2E Solutions. Lee Reveley wins the RST Clothing Golden Era Superbikes in fine style here. He's 15 seconds. He's got over second place man Rob Wilson, who's done a fine job on the Kawasaki ZX7R. Martin Tranter finished 3rd on the Yamaha with Blunt in 4th on the Suzuki. Dixon also on the S-Rad finishing 5th with Ryan Spreadbreath 6th. And there is Lee, very happy in centre. Onto the point standings, a massive lead for Lee Reveley ahead of Nick Williamson. Richard Blunt's 3rd ahead of Rob Wilson, Jason Dixon and Ian Simpson's in 6th.
Lee Reveley, winner of the RST Motorcycle Clothing Golden Era Superbikes. I mean, that looked to me like a clean pair of heels.
Not to begin with. The guys, I know the guys go really well in the wet. Rob and trying to think of the chap's name. A guy in the Suzuki. Anyway, they go really well in the wet. So I knew I was going to have a fight. But yeah, once I got clear, got in a steady pace. It was comfortable.
You're putting in some reasonable lap times there in the wet. Do you find this a good grippy track in the wet?
Yeah, I think they resurfaced it. I think the back end of last year, and it's definitely a lot grippier than it was. And yeah, it was like riding around a dry, to be honest.
Well, it looks like you're on track for your 3rd ThundersportGB championship win. Long way to go yet, obviously, and a lot of races to do. But who'd you like to thank, mate?
Yeah, I'd like to thank firstly Griff at Aprilia Performance. He's been helping me with the bike. He's a Aprilia specialist, and my team, mum and dad, Stuart, everybody who helps me out, Tony at Motorcourse. I also want to say get well soon to Keith Smith. He's had a bit of an incident in Mexico, I think, and get well soon, mate. Hope we're back on track soon.
Yeah, I think the trick with Keith Smith is don't balance on roofs when you've had a drink. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't fully know the circumstances, but get well soon, mate.
No, it's nice, and we all wish him very well. Thanks very much, Lee.